PlayStation Now?
So, PlayStation has Sony has unveiled a service called PlayStation Now that they will be rolling out in the future. And it's a streaming service, as far as anyone can tell, much like a Netflix for PlayStation 4. It'll also be for Vita, various tablets, smartphones.
So it's a cloud service.
It's making use of Gaikai, which they bought earlier in 2012, and so it's not really based it's very minimally based on the performance of your hardware, and largely based on whether or not you have an item that they will let you run PlayStation Now through. It's going to cover, I believe, PlayStation 3 games, and I believe they had already said PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2, as well as Vita and download type stuff.
So now we know why the PS4 was not going to be backwards compatible. They just planned all along.
They had already. Everyone could see this coming. They purchased Gaikai before they announced these things, and they said there would be some sort of streaming or cloud-based service. So this really isn't a surprise. It's just now they're announcing it. Now the question is, though, the bigger surprise, I think, was that they're going to be allowing this sort of stuff on like tablets and smartphones.
Which is a big deal.
And they were demoing things like, Last of Us, which pushed the PlayStation 3 to its limits, running on things like portables that shouldn't really be running it. You're basically using your system or say your tablet as a controller to play something long distance.
And it works because you're not processing it on that device, it's on the cloud.
Right. They've said that you'll be able to rent games individually for X amount of time, or that you'll be able to sign up for a subscription-based service.
Did they announce the price of the service yet?
To my knowledge, they have not. It's interesting as a person who likes to own physical media, especially with games. See, with Netflix, I don't care if I own a DVD necessarily, except for like certain anime series or movies or cartoons. I'm usually okay with just having it available for streaming. But with games, I like to own it, and if this is where things are going, I don't know, it's too impermanent for me when I like to be able to go back to games. If they take something off of Netflix, no big deal. I have a lot of other ways to get it. But if they take, if this is the future, if this is what we transition to,
oh yeah,
and they take a game off of it because of, say, like the recent Activision problems where they're losing the Marvel copyrights, so they're pulling things off.
Yeah.
Well, what the hell happens if in a generation or two this is the only way we're getting our games, and then we can't play them anymore? This conversation actually came up when we were talking to, I was actually talking to Square Painter about it. Was talking about digital games and how already it's sort of screwing up the marketplace for collectors. What happens if you get a 360 10 years from now and you want to get a game that's got some real crippling bugs in it? Let's say Fallout New Vegas. Good game, but the launch version of it had some bugs.
You can't
and you can't get the patch. What can you do? So I don't.
You're gonna have to depend almost on these services taking over for that, and then you get the game with the patch, and then you gotta pay for their used ones instead of from a store.
Right. As long as things keep going well and they keep making money, everything might be okay. But the problem is, at some point, something catastrophic could happen. The market could take a dip, and we suddenly don't have the games we want to play as easily available.
Let's go back to the collecting part. Let's stick with it here and now for now. So basically, they're going to position this as Netflix for the PlayStation library, which is a brilliant idea.
Sure. I mean, I would sign up for that. Yeah.
Depending on the price. I see this, in my crystal ball, I see this being something like $19.99 a month for the entire library of games that, the Sony has the rights to put out, but that'll be worth it, I think, to a lot of people. They're going to be going online and being like, wow, I can play Ridge Racer again, or I can play this again.
You made me happy.
Without spending, Nintendo. I just got a 3DS, and one of the things I was not shocked about, but I was kind of perplexed how an NES game on the 3DS was $5, and how that seemed unreasonable. I thought it'd be $1 or $2, which is what I think what they originally were on the Wii. They weren't $5.
No, they were $5. They were always $5. The pricing was $5 for that, $8 for Super and Genesis, $10 for N64.
Either way, it's way too much money. It really is. For something that has almost no overhead besides getting the license. And if Nintendo owns it, there is no overhead. So for this would be good, because this is like, I don't have to buy these individual games, which would cost me hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars.
Sure.
$20 a month, even though it could be a couple $100 over the year. I have everything there. I have everything.
Right. If they don't rotate things out rapidly and they really do work on a big library. See, here's the thing. I've seen this going around and I agree with it. What they need to do is they need to make sure that they put the focus into the US market. It's like when they did the PlayStation 1 Classics and the PS2 stuff on the PlayStation 3 in Japan. Japan got an incredibly huge PlayStation 1 library. The US got almost none of it. They need to focus on a central server and they need to make it region free. You cannot expect us to pay for this. And I'm not even just talking about import games that never came out here. Games that completely got a US translation were released in Japan and never got that release here for PlayStation 1. They need to make sure that there's enough content to back up the price. And they need to leave it up. And I need to feel...
Well, they will, as long as it's... Of course, if it's Sony stuff, it'll be up forever. But if it's a licensing thing for another company, who knows?
Well, yeah, and I mean, that's where you run into the problems.
We don't know the breadth of it yet. We don't know if it's going to be... if it's going to be Final Fantasy games or not, or if that's going to be precluded from the streaming service because they have to pay extra money to license those games. You know what I mean? We don't know those parts of it yet.
What I would almost hope to see, and I think this is hoping too much, is but instead of putting effort into uploading games for one-time purchases on like the PlayStation Store, they persuade everyone that the subscription fee is what to do, and they simply translate that store over to the subscriber service. The problem is, and this has already been addressed by Sony, is if you already own a game, you don't get that game again. So if I have a digital download of Final Fantasy IX on my PlayStation 3, I don't automatically get that game free to play as a rental on the using the streaming store. Which now, if you're going to pay the subscription fee anyway, that burn negates itself. It's fine in the end, but
if you rebuy it,
but it would be nice to see them as a goodwill gesture use this as a way to give people the games they've already purchased, and they're not.
Yeah, well, they're probably different servers, probably complicated technically, but at least they're trying to do something nice like this, and I see them not eating Microsoft's lunch for this, because this is something Microsoft never even thought of. Their whole thing was, well, we have DRM because you can share games. This is a library that you can purchase month to month. That appeals to me a lot more personally. Yeah. Having a real Netflix for games and not a GameFly service, this appeals to me more.
So it appeals to me, and I think Sony we've neglected to mention this. Sony has been kind of testing these waters. Their PlayStation Plus service has kind of been a test of this, and it's been getting them a lot of good publicity. They put up a bunch of games for free. As long as you download the game and you keep your PlayStation Plus service, you get to keep that free game. They change them rapidly. They give you a bunch of sales, and people see it as worth the money. So if this is sort of a thing where they can do the same thing with this service and almost transition it, they would do well.
This is interesting.
Yes.
This is from the additional information that came out. In addition to PlayStation platforms, you mentioned it being available potentially if you buy the game since it's a cloud, you're going to have it on your Vita as well as your system.
Yeah.
Most 2014 U.S. models of Sony's Bravia TV lineup will support PS Now.
Yeah, I forgot.
So that's really cool.
Yeah.
Because if you buy any TV the past 4 years, you have streaming services available on it. Whether it's like a Roku type of device, you can do it. But like for example, like Blip has a service that when you upload to Blip your video, like a YouTube person uploads to Blip, it goes out into all these other device potential, like these device libraries.
Sure.
So this means that this is a library that'll be on all the TVs that you buy automatically. So that means you won't need a PlayStation. You'll just need an account and pay, and then you can, I guess, hook a controller in somehow. And there you go. It's like the streaming game services that died out a couple years ago.
Someone had said that, what's the point of even having a PS4 at this point? Well, you can't do the PS4 games.
You can't do the PS4 games.
But still, I mean, what drives me, well, not drives me. What I think is kind of crazy about this though is Sony's almost trumping themselves so fast. I wonder where they're going to, when they're going to stop and how they're going to make money, because the Vita TV was supposed to be this basically.
But no one has a Vita.
Well, but it would play Vita games, it would play the PlayStation 1 games, the PlayStation, and it would play the download library.
No one was gonna...
But now you've got this. Yeah. So it's just, I'm trying to think of what one benefit is over the other. I still thought the Vita TV was a neat little device if you had a PS3 or a Vita. But now with this, depending on how well they support it, there's no need for that.
Well, this could help sell Vitas. It really could.
Well, yeah, because you could take it on the go.
Yeah.
Sure.
PS Go, that did well. Yeah, I think Sony's realizing they're not in the handheld market really. That's almost like don't bother.
I like my Vita, but man, they're not in it.
They're not in it. Duh. You got Nintendo. But here's what's interesting. Eventually, the service will expand beyond PlayStation platforms and Sony devices, allowing users to stream PlayStation games on numerous other internet-connected devices. I think eventually they're going to say, fuck it. 4 years now, you'll be able to stream their service on a PC. It'll be like Steam. You'll be pay $20 a month or whatever, and you can play all the games emulated on your computer, which is a cool idea. That's really cool. And that's getting way... You imagine Nintendo came out with something like that with the Nintendo library? Everyone would sign up for that. Just from the Nintendo license alone, they would make a killing.
Yeah, license to print money.
They make a killing. They could charge $30 a month, and people would do that. If you got all the Super Nintendo, N64, GameCube, and NES games, all just the NES, all the Nintendo published ones.
Yeah.
Forget it. It would almost like be like, why would you need to buy, for the other games? But you know what I mean? Like most people would be satisfied with that. But no, it's a really good idea. I'm glad to see Sony trying to do something a little bit different here.
I think what it comes down to is tech, and we'd have to. In reality, we'll have to see how it works with a full network.